Today I'm trying 3 meatless main dish recipes from the Moosewood Cookbook. This book was written by Mollie Katzen. The original version is from 1974 and it was self-published. This is the revised 1977 version. It contains recipes from Mollie Katzen's famous Moosewood restaurant in Ithaca, New York, so we'll definitely talk more about this book and Mollie a little bit later. I don't think it's a secret that I'm a big fan of Mollie Katzen's recipes. I have cooked a couple of them here on the channel. I have a couple of her other cookbooks. They're vegetarian recipes, and there's a lot of different reasons why you might want to eat less meat. Me personally, I don't have a reason. I just like to eat a lot of different things, vegetarian, or not. It doesn't matter to me. And I tried to choose 3 recipes from this book that are very approachable and that you can easily get the ingredients for. And with Lent coming up, I grew up Catholic, so we did observe Lent. I thought it might be a good idea to provide some additional ideas for some meatless meals. I love a casserole on this channel, and I thought this spinach rice casserole looked like a good one. So I'm starting out by melting some butter. So we'll just give that a little time to do its thing. The butter's mostly melted, and now I'm adding half a cup of diced onions to that. I'm cutting the recipe in half. Stir to coat just a little. And I'm going to let these cook for a little bit until they get soft. I need to add some garlic as well, but I'll do that after these have cooked for a few minutes. The onions have softened up nicely, so I'm gonna add a little pinch of salt here and my clove of garlic. Give that a minute to cook. Okay, and now I'm going to add my spinach, but I did make a change and I want to let you know. It says a pound of fresh spinach. I am going with 1 cup of frozen spinach that I've cooked. So here's the thing. I'm trying to limit my trips to the grocery store a little bit right now, and I had this bag of frozen spinach in my freezer. Usually 1 pound of fresh spinach is going to yield about a cup to a cup and a half of cooked spinach. This was a 12-ounce bag of steamable spinach, the kind that you cook in the microwave, and I got about a cup out of it. So it's about the right amount. I also want to try to use some things up that are in my freezer, and I think for a casserole like this, I think it's fine, and I think you should do what you feel is right and what works for you. And at this moment, this is what is right and this is what works for me. So I am going to cook this for just a couple of minutes before I move on to the next step. I'd like to thank Blueland for sponsoring today's video. Recently, I've been trying to make some more eco-friendly swaps in the cleaning products I use in my day-to-day life, and Blueland has made it really easy. The products are EPA Safer Choice certified, so they're better for my household and the environment. And I think this is just as important. They're effective and proven to work. So I don't have to choose between an eco-friendly option and something that actually gets my house clean. Now, you've probably heard me talk about Blueland before. They offer personal care and cleaning products that are people and planet friendly. And there's no single-use plastic in any of their products. From their bottles to their packing and shipping materials, no single-use plastic. I use Blueland's hand soap every day, and I enjoy it for a lot of reasons. You can actually stock up without taking up a lot of space. This is 6 hand soap tablets, so 6 bottles of hand soap, and they fit in one of my hands. Their scents are incredible, but if scents aren't your thing, they do offer unscented hand soap tablets too. The refills are affordable. They start at just $2.25 a piece, but you can save even more by buying in bulk or setting up a subscription. And they are so easy to use. Choose a tablet and fill Blueland's reusable glass bottle to the line with warm water. Drop in the tablet and allow it to fully dissolve. Once the tablet has dissolved, replace the pump and you have an entire bottle of foaming hand soap ready to use. I also really love their toilet cleaning tablets. All you have to do is drop a tablet into your toilet and watch it fizz and foam. Brush the toilet once the tablet has fully dissolved, flush the toilet, and that's it. You're done. The toilet cleaner starter kit actually does come with this great little storage container for your cleaning tablets, and it's so cute. I don't mind leaving this out on the counter of my bathroom. If you'd like to try Blueland, they're sharing a special offer for my viewers. Simply click the link in my description down below or scan the QR code that's on the screen right now, and you could save 15% on your first kit. Thank you again to Blueland for sponsoring today's video. All right, I have my spinach mixture in this pan, setting it off to the side for now, while I combine all of the other ingredients. And I've selected a spring blossom bowl today, combined with all ingredients. Okay, so those ingredients, I have 2 cups of cooked brown rice. I cooked this ahead of time. Oh, sorry, my oven is preheated. It's like, what? Cook this before you even start doing everything else. I have a couple of eggs here. Oops, and I need to just kind of whip those up with a fork. I decided to let the spinach mixture cool just a little bit because I didn't want to scramble these eggs. So we'll add that in a little bit later after we've gotten some more things combined in here. Half a cup of milk. Let's start combining a little. Finely grated cheddar cheese. I don't see how this dish can't be good with these ingredients. They're all things that I like anyway. Some fresh parsley that I've chopped up. A tablespoon of tamari. I'm using soy sauce because I'm more likely to have soy sauce on hand, and they're very similar. I'm gonna do just a pinch of salt, and it says a few dashes of nutmeg and cayenne. I've got my little nutmeg container here. We're just gonna tap some in there, not too much, and some cayenne. As much or as little as you want on that one, depending on your tastes. And I'm bringing in the spinach, onion, garlic mixture. It's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be good. Doesn't say what size of casserole dish to use here. Because I'm cutting the recipe in half, this should be about 3 servings. I'm gonna try a 1.5 quart casserole dish. So you need a buttered casserole dish. Oh, the pattern's only on this side. The name escapes me of what this pattern is, but I will put it on the screen here. I will have to look it up because I just don't remember. So this is 1.5 quarts. I think it's gonna fit. And I did butter this a little bit. So let's get this in here, see if we can fit. I'm gonna spread that out a bit before I move on to putting the rest of it in here. I think it's gonna work. I think it's gonna work. Okie doke. Whoops, I did spill a little, and that's okay. A few grains of rice. A few grains of rice. All right, make sure this is pretty even on the top. And there's a couple more things that go on top of this. You know, I probably would go with some buttery breadcrumbs, but in this case, it's paprika and sunflower seeds. Now the paprika I have, so I'm gonna start by sprinkling a little of that on. It just says like paprika, doesn't say how much. So we're gonna sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. And I don't have sunflower seeds, but I do have pepitas, so pumpkin seeds. Pretty similar, so we're gonna go with that. So I can use what I have. Press them in a little bit. There you have it. And now I need to bake this for 35 minutes at 350 degrees. Apologies if you hear a chainsaw outside. It's like the first nice day that we've had in a while that actually is sunny and people are taking advantage of it. So I guess I understand. I just wish it wasn't there in the background. I also have the windows open because it's so nice out and I like to hear the birds sing and chatter while I'm working in the kitchen. Anyway, this casserole, just because of my personal choice to put it in a loaf style pan, it kind of looks like a loaf of like seeded bread, but it's not. It's a surprise. I do like the way those pepitas look on top. So yeah, okay, well we're gonna give it a try. Ooh, okay, can I like show you? Let's look at a cross section. Yeah, look at that. Kind of reminds me of the broccoli casserole I made very recently in a video. I'm gonna give it a try. I let it cool for just a few minutes. It's still pretty warm though. I feel like I've made something like this before. Like I know I've made some sort of spinach bake with egg. I don't know if there was rice included. I'll have to look back at all my recipes. I think I needed to season it just a little bit more. I probably would have added some more garlic, but it is very tasty. The egg and cheese in there with the spinach, always a good combo. The brown rice gives it kind of like a heftier texture, so it's a little bit more substantial, I guess. The pumpkin seeds give it like a nice toasty flavor. Now that I'm thinking of it, I'm like, because I loafed it up, like I made it into a loaf, I'm like, you could almost serve this in slices if you wanted to. I probably undersalted it just a bit. I was a little afraid because the soy sauce is salty. And then I would add more garlic to this. And then I think it would be absolutely perfect, but it is tasty just the way I made it. I'm trying out a recipe for stuffed squash, and as you can see, you can start with either an acorn squash or a butternut squash. I'm going with an acorn squash. And there are several variations: mushroom and cheese, apple. There's even one that is a comprehensively stuffed, substitute for a Thanksgiving main dish if you have someone who is vegetarian attending, your Thanksgiving. But I'm going to concentrate on this one, the one with the mushroom cheese filling. It sounds very appealing to me. So to begin, I have to prepare my little squash here. I am cutting this recipe in half. So I'm using one squash that I've cut into 2 halves, and I have to scrape out the seeds that are in here. I have a very sharp spoon. This is like my favorite spoon to do stuff like this with. You can use a grapefruit spoon. I do not have a grapefruit spoon, but I have this one, and it just has like a little bit of a sharper edge to it. Dig those seeds out a little bit. Okay, this doesn't take long at all. So now I have 2 halves of one squash, and it says I need to bake these face down on an oiled tray for about 30 minutes at 350 degrees or until tender enough to eat. So I'm preheating my oven right now, and I'll pop these in as soon as it's ready. My squash is safely tucked away in the oven. That's gonna bake for about a half an hour. And now I need to melt some butter, and it doesn't indicate how much butter, it just says butter because I'm gonna saute some onions and mushrooms. We'll let that melt. So I'm adding half a cup of chopped onions to this pan. Let's get those coated in the butter for a moment. And 4 ounces of chopped mushrooms. Get a few stragglers in there. There we go. So I'm gonna let these things cook together for a couple of minutes. I'm not gonna add the garlic just yet. I like to add it a little later in the cooking process so that it doesn't burn. Almost forgot, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and some pepper as well. The onions are soft. This is cooked down quite a bit, so I'm gonna add a clove of crushed garlic. It's a small clove, just a little. I'm gonna mix that in and let it cook for about a minute or so. And then we'll move on to the rest of this filling. Well, it's smelling pretty dang good so far. So now I have to take this mushroom mixture and drain it. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of liquid here, so we'll see. But what you're supposed to do is drain this and then save the liquid and use it to baste the squash as it bakes, like after you fill it. Because we bake it, we fill it, and then we bake it again. Let's see if I can press some of this out. There's so little in here. There's a little bit, you know, and I'll let this kind of like hang out while I'm mixing everything else together. So maybe we'll get a little bit more. Bringing back the friendship bowl. Just love it. Just love it. I have some cooked rice. You can use either cooked rice or breadcrumbs for this. I happen to have some brown rice and quinoa left from another dish, so I'm using it up. It's one of my favorite things to do is use things up. I also have some cottage cheese, the cheese part of this recipe. I'm super excited and interested to see how this tastes. A little bit of dry basil and some chopped fresh parsley. It does say some dry white wine in the recipe. I don't actually have any wine, and because I'm cutting the recipe in half, I would only need a tablespoon of that anyway, so I just have a little bit of like vegetable broth I'm gonna use instead. I just keep better than bouillon on hand, so I've got the chicken, the beef, and the vegetable stuff in my fridge all the time. I think we can add our mushrooms here. Let's just, there's just not a lot more liquid left, I think, so. Oh, this smells really good. This seems like a mixture I would like to just eat by itself. And actually, it kind of looks like maybe this made more mixture than I might need. We'll see how much we can get in the little like hollows of the squash. But, you know, with any leftover, I'm probably just gonna like, if there's some left, I'll pile it into like a little dish and bake it alongside the squash, because it does seem like it would be delicious. The squash I picked up is probably a little bit on the smaller side anyway. Do we have everything? Mushrooms, onion, garlic, cheese, cottage cheese, basil, parsley, salt and pepper, rice, butter, and the vegetable stock that I used. Okay, well, I still have, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes left on my squash in the oven. So once that's done, we'll fill her up. Hey, my squash, look how pretty. This one got nice and brown. This one got a little brown. Mine took a little less time to cook. I let them go for about 25 minutes at 350 degrees, and they're gonna be baked again. So they're definitely gonna be very soft by the time we're all done here. So now I have to fill these and see how much of this delightful looking filling we actually use. This is a little different than like the other stuffed squashes I have ever tried. I've had them with rice, but usually, I don't know if I've ever had one with cottage cheese in it, but I like to make lasagna with cottage cheese, so I think this is gonna be good too. We might be able to get more of this filling in there than I was anticipating. It almost looks like ground beef. The browned mushrooms actually kind of look like ground beef crumbles. Yeah, I think we might be able to get it all in there. I don't know, something about these recipes, because I love Mollie Katzen's recipes. They just bring out my enthusiasm, I guess. I think they're very interesting. Her recipes are very flavorful, at least the ones that I've tried, and it's always exciting to me. It's always exciting to me to make one of her recipes. I think I just, yeah, I got a little enthusiastic, folks. We lost some on the tray. Oh my gosh, perfect. That is like the absolute, I don't want to tip it too much, perfect fit. Maybe I can bring this up and show you a little better. Watch me lose one of these on the floor. Rest assured, if I drop something on the floor, like that footage is staying in here. I pride myself on keeping them little mishaps in my videos. These need to bake at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes, and then we get to give them a try. I did put one of the squash halves in my cute little country fare, I believe it's called, dish, just for the thumbnail. How sweet. Smells super good. The filling just, I know it's gonna be tasty. I just have a good feeling. Let's put this down. It's kind of awkward to hold the dish. I'm gonna make sure I get a little bit of everything. So I'm gonna scoop some of that squash. Yeah, it's very soft. Oh, I forgot to mention, there was just a little bit of liquid left from the onions and mushrooms that I sauteed, like very small amount. About halfway through, I did put that liquid, like I poured it over what little bit there was. I poured it over each half of the squash. Yum. That is so good all together. So when you're baking the squash, you don't like butter it or salt it or anything. You're just kind of roasting it in the oven. So it's like, I don't know, maybe that's not going to be super flavorful. But then the filling has a lot going on, you know, sauteed onions and mushrooms, salt and pepper, garlic, a lot of different things. And I think when you put it all together, it really balances things out. The rice gives it like a good texture. Like the combination of the brown rice that I used and the mushrooms kind of gives it a little bit of a meaty texture in there. Oh, it's so tasty. This is like, not to toot my own horn or Mollie Katzen's horn, because like this is her recipe. I think this is the best stuffed squash that I've ever eaten, honestly. It's very savory. You know, there's a variation where you use apples and things like that. I'm kind of more used to that, but I really like this one. I think this is like a perfect main dish. I need to show you what it looks like outside right now. It is gonna have to be through the window because I am not going outside right now. We had some snow over the weekend and I think it is about 15 degrees out right now. And that makes me think it's a good day for soup. So I'm pretty excited to give this Hungarian mushroom soup a try because I absolutely love mushrooms and it just seems appropriate for the day. Melting some butter in a pan here. So I'll give that a moment. All right, my butter has been melted. So now I need to add 1 cup of chopped onions. That was 1 tablespoon of butter. I am cutting this recipe in half. Stir those to coat just a little. And it says to salt lightly, so I'm just gonna add a little pinch. I'm gonna let those cook for just a few minutes. All right, those onions have gotten a very good start. So now I'm going to add 6 ounces of sliced mushrooms. I'm gonna give those a bit of a stir as well, just to incorporate a little bit before I put in the next ingredients. About half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of dill. I went a little heavy on the dill because I like it. It says about 1/4 cup of water or stock, 1/4 cup because I'm cutting it in half. I'm doing vegetable stock. I'm just doing like better than bouillon. And I'm eyeballing that amount just a little. Yeah, I got pretty close to 1/4. So I'm gonna stir that in. Tamari and paprika. So I'm using soy sauce. You can kind of swap in soy sauce if you don't have tamari. They are similar. And then half a tablespoon of Hungarian paprika. Ooh, everything smells so good. Got some strong flavors. I can smell the soy sauce. I can smell the dill. I can smell the paprika. Wow, this is gonna be a good soup. So now I need to cover this. I'm gonna let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Alrighty, there's just a few minutes left on this part of the soup and I wanted to give you a little peek at that. So I think, yeah, I have about 3 minutes, but we're gonna turn our attention this way because I'm gonna make the roux that's going to thicken the soup. And we're gonna transfer this over there. All right, so I have melted the remaining butter and now I need to add 1.5. Hello, oh, that's the timer. I need to add 1.5 tablespoons of flour here. And I'm gonna whisk that. and let it cook for a few minutes until it is nice and thick. I've been whisking this just for a few minutes. I love how this whisk can go from balloon to flat when I'm doing something like this. We're gonna lower that heat just a little bit so then I can get into the corners and get that flour incorporated. Now that I'm at a good place, I have to add some milk. Yeah. And whisk, whisk, whisk. Gotta keep whisking and let that cook until it is thickened. I would say that is nice and thick. I got a couple more steps here. I have my beautiful mushroom mixture that I just cooked. So I'm gonna add that. I did sneak a taste of a mushroom and it is delicious. And I have my remaining vegetable stock. I need to add that as well. And it says you can use water or stock if I didn't mention that before. Turn you into a balloon whisk and whisk all of that together. Just until it's all incorporated. Sorry, I bumped the camera a bit with my enthusiastic whisking. You want to make sure you don't have any little lumps of flour in there. So you do want to get a little enthusiastic. So now I need to cover this, lower the heat, and let that simmer for about 15 minutes. So this is already smelling and looking incredible to me, but I have just a few more things to add, and that is some pepper, freshly ground pepper, a little bit more salt, and then some sour cream, and you can garnish with additional sour cream too. Yes, I'm scraping the dish, I promise you. Sometimes it's a little awkward to do things on camera, but I scrape all my bowls. I have so many spatulas for just that purpose. And just a tiny little bit of lemon juice. I have all of these little like Bon Maman jam jars because I got the jam calendar one year. And the jars are just like so darling. I don't really know exactly what to do with all of them, but I can't like throw them away either. So we use them for different things. I'm actually gonna whisk that sour cream in. Oh my gosh. Let me see if I can lean you forward. It's so thick and rich and delicious looking. I cannot wait to give this a try. Okay, so I was actually supposed to chop the parsley. Let me get focused here. I gotta tell you, I was just too excited. I was just too excited to chop parsley and put it on this soup. I needed to try this ASAP. So I just put some leaves on there, put a little dollop of sour cream for the thumbnail. I know this is gonna be good. I'm so excited. Okay, it smells so good. Wow, I'm not exaggerating. That is one of the best soups I've ever made. Oh my gosh. Wow, if you love mushrooms the way I love mushrooms, like you have to make this soup. It is so dang good. I want to keep eating it, but I know I have to talk about it. It is velvety and rich. You can really taste that paprika. Just like so many flavors. Everything just comes together to make this rich, delicious soup. I don't know how this would be if you made this with water. It's very flavorful the way I made it though. I think this would be so good with some like fresh, warm, crusty bread. This is a real treat. If you love mushrooms, if you even like mushrooms, you have to try this soup. I'm not kidding. This version of the Moosewood Cookbook was published in 1977, written by Mollie Katzen, and she is one of the founders of the Moosewood restaurant in Ithaca, New York. She's also written a dozen cookbooks. She had a show on PBS for about 5 years in the 90s and early 2000s. I think a lot of people know who she is. I'm a big fan of her recipes. The first time I ever encountered one of her cookbooks was in high school, and it was The Enchanted Broccoli Forest, because how can you see that? How can you see The Enchanted Broccoli Forest as a title and not be intrigued? I actually have my favorite recipe from that cookbook on this channel. It was for Greek pizza, which, to me remains a very special recipe and a very delicious recipe. Highly recommend that you make that. But I wanted to give a few of the Moosewood Cookbook recipes a try. My edition is actually from a library sale, so it's got library binding. It might be a little different than the one that you own, but I like it just because it's like a nice, like sturdy copy, right? So one of the things I absolutely love about Mollie Katzen's cookbooks is that she hand illustrated and hand lettered the recipes. I know in this one and the Enchanted Broccoli Forest, maybe a few of the others, she has quite a few cookbooks and I haven't looked at all of them. But I think her illustrations and her lettering, it makes the cookbook so interesting and just like so much more fun when you're looking through the recipes. This recipe for orange ginger sauce, I love these like, this like kind of elaborate looking border. These are pen and ink illustrations. Let's look through some more. Eggless eggplant ricotta. She's got like a really cool place setting right there. If you've ever wondered how to eat a tostada, there you go. That's how you do it. Apple cheese pancakes. I love that beautiful tree. Yeah, I had such a fun time looking through this and really just like deciding which recipes to make. Here's a picture of Mollie during this time period. And you can actually still go to the Moosewood restaurant. It's still there, it's still in the same location. But yeah, the recipes in this cookbook, it says recipes from Moosewood Restaurant, Ithaca, New York. So some were probably on the menu, some were maybe just inspired by menu items. Oh, this was definitely in the running, mushroom moussaka, because that just sounds so good. A drawing of a shish kebab. Never thought about drawing a shish kebab, but that's a pretty good one. And even the table of contents is lettered by hand. Hot soups, chilled soups, salads, sandwiches, spreads, sauces, entrees, and also desserts. And then there's a little chapter called A Few Miscellaneous Baked Things. Oh my gosh, and look at this. This is like a cabinet or a pantry drawing. My goodness. That's amazing. Yeah, I like to do some meatless recipes around this time of year. I mentioned at the top of the video that Lent is coming up, or either it's coming up at the time I'm filming this, but it's probably happening right now as I post this video. And I grew up Catholic, so we did observe Lent. Most of the time on Fridays, we would go to a local fish fry. That was a big thing for us. We went to the local KFC fish fry. My dad was actually part of that organization. And when I was like a little bit older, probably like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, I did go and help out at those fish fries. And I have very fond memories of spending time with my dad and doing those things, and just things like putting out salt and pepper shakers or wiping trays and collecting trays from people. Those are very happy memories to me. And I wouldn't trade them for anything. But I think it's good to have options if you don't want to go to the fish fry every Friday. Maybe you can come up with some other meatless meal ideas, and that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm doing this video. So let's talk about the recipes I made today. So the spinach rice casserole, I think this one was like a good basic recipe. I think I should have added more salt. I was a little bit like hesitant to add extra salt because of the soy sauce, but I think I would add a little bit more salt and some garlic, but the flavor overall was good. I actually liked the texture of the brown rice. I know brown rice is not something that everybody enjoys, but in this case, it had kind of a nutty, like substantial texture. That's like kind of what it like gave to the casserole. I did really like the pumpkin seeds on top of this. Normally I'd go buttery breadcrumbs. This was kind of a nice like complement to the rest of it. I probably would have liked a little bit more cayenne too, because the cayenne and I think the nutmeg, those were kind of like just a few dashes of each. I probably should have added a little bit more. Just spice it up a little bit differently and like customize it to your liking. The second recipe I tried was stuffed squash, and I chose the mushroom and cheese filling, and holy cow, this was really delicious. With stuffed squash, usually I kind of think like it's a fall dish. For me, the ones that I've had, even when they're stuffed with like rice, it's usually like a sweeter leaning kind of flavor profile. So like apples and raisins, maybe nuts. This was definitely like firmly in the savory camp, and I loved it. The filling was just so good. It really was. Mushrooms, cottage cheese, onion, lots of other things, spices. It had kind of a meaty texture. This did definitely, because of the mushrooms and the cottage cheese, it did have a little bit of a heavier kind of like, I don't know, chewier texture, I guess, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. The recipe, as it's written, makes 4 servings. I cut that in half. It worked just fine. I haven't tried the other half yet. I'm going to have that probably for lunch tomorrow. So I'm not sure how it's going to reheat, but we'll see. The combination of just the kind of like sweet squash flesh that got browned when you baked it in the oven, and then this very delicious and savory filling. It was so good together. I was very, very pleased. I would like to try this in a butternut squash just to see if there's much of a difference, but it did really well with an acorn squash. Yeah, I didn't do the white wine. So, you know, of course, if you're gonna use wine in your flavor might change a little bit. I just used some broth, and it worked really, really well for me. And finally, the Hungarian mushroom soup. This was the absolute standout of the 3 recipes. All 3 recipes were delicious and tasted good, and I would make them again, but this Hungarian mushroom soup was just incredible. I am not exaggerating. If you like mushrooms, this is a soup that I think you will very much enjoy. It had a very earthy, very savory flavor to it, and it was creamy as well. It wasn't like cream of mushroom soup, like, you know, just a heavy cream base with like some mushrooms thrown in. Like you could taste the mushrooms in this. Oh my gosh. And the dill in there was so, so good. The paprika too. Paprika makes a difference and had a good amount in there. I can't say enough good things about it. And it did reheat really well too. I haven't tried like this soup is gone. Okay. I had some for a couple of meals. I gave a little bit away for someone else to try, for a friend to try. So I did not get to freeze this to see how it would work out because there just wasn't any left. It was that delicious, but you know, maybe in the future I'll make a big batch and like freeze it and see how that kind of goes. I do like to try and like give you updates on whether or not like I've reheated these things or anything like that. I did reheat this in the microwave and it was just fine. It was just as good the second time as it was the first time. Yeah, I can't stop singing the praises of this soup. And I will be adding it to, you know, my soup rotation for sure. I don't usually rank recipes when I make them, like the 3 recipes of each video, but this one was probably the best one. So that was the Moosewood Cookbook. I hope you got a few new ideas, maybe for some meatless meals for your meal plan. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to join us over there, I'll have a link in the description so that you can do that. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post videos about food, vintage cookbooks, and retro recipes every week. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.